3 years had passed, and I thought I'd never see him again. Until today, while browsing the baby and maternity stores in the mall, I turned around and ran into that face that was so familiar it was etched in my bones. Tanya? Frank stood not far away, holding a small pink dress in his hands, his eyes flashing with disbelief. I was stunned for a moment, and subconsciously hugged Rowan tightly in my arms. Frank. My voice was calm, as if he was just an ordinary stranger. Frank's eyes fell on the child in my arms, and his face instantly turned pale. Rowan felt a little uncomfortable under his gaze and shrank into my arms. This is... His voice was trembling. My daughter. I said calmly, Frank, is there anything else? If not, I'll leave first. I was about to leave when Frank stopped me. Wait, Tanya, can we talk? There's nothing to talk about. I looked at him coldly, get out of the way. Pain flashed in Frank's eyes, but he still stood there stubbornly. 3 years ago, you suddenly disappeared without even giving me an explanation, and now you have a child. What explanation do I need to give you? I laughed sarcastically. Doesn't Frank already have a fiancé? Frank's face darkened even more when he mentioned this. 3 years ago, we had been together for 2 years, and our relationship had always been great. But everything changed when his childhood sweetheart, Bai Guang, returned to China. That girl named Una was gentle, kind, well-educated, and everyone saw her as the perfect goddess. And I, on the other hand, was just an ordinary girl with no background. Frank's mother had never liked me, and as soon as Una came back, she started giving me some leniency, both overtly and covertly. Una is in poor health and needs care. Una and Frank have been childhood sweethearts and have a deep bond. Una comes from a wealthy family and is a good match. All these rumors reached my ears, and I pretended not to care, but my heart was already wavering. Frank noticed the change in me, but he didn't give me enough sense of security. Instead, we started to quarrel frequently because of Una. It was my birthday that day, and Frank had agreed to spend it with me. But Una called, and he left in a hurry. Una has a fever, I'm going to see her. What about me? I asked him. I'll be with you when I get back. He left without even looking back. I waited alone in the restaurant for 3 hours, but all I got was a photo of him and Una. In it, Una nestled in his arms, and he looked at her tenderly, with a doting look in his eyes I had never seen before. At that moment, my heart completely sank. The next day, I packed my bags and prepared to leave the city. Frank rushed over to stop me, and we had a big argument. You just don't believe me. He looked at me angrily. Then tell me, do you really have me in your heart? I asked him with red eyes. Frank opened his mouth but said nothing. His silence was the best answer. I smiled, but tears fell. Frank, let's break up. No. He grabbed my wrist. Tanya, listen to me. There's nothing to explain. I shook his hand off. You have someone else in your heart, and that fact will never change. Instead of torturing each other, it's better to end it early. I don't. Frank said anxiously. Una is just my sister. Sister? I sneered. Frank, you can't even lie. After that day, I left the city for Haicheng, thousands of miles away, and never returned. Later, I met Connor, a gentle lawyer. He knew my past, but he still chose to love me. We got married, had children, and lived a peaceful and happy life. Until today, in this very shopping mall, the person I thought I had forgotten all about reappeared. Tanya. Frank's voice was soft, filled with pain. I've been looking for you for 3 years. I looked at him coldly. Why are you looking for me? I want to tell you. He took a deep breath. Una and I have never been together. After you left 3 years ago, I rejected everyone's arrangements. I have been waiting for you to come back. I was stunned for a moment, then laughed sarcastically. Frank, at this time, you are still lying to me? I'm not lying. He got excited, his voice trembling. I was wrong 3 years ago. I admit I hesitated, but I never. That's enough, I interrupted. Frank, I'm married and have my own family. Let bygones be bygones. Frank froze as if struck by lightning. Married? His voice was as light as a feather. When? 2 years ago, I said calmly. I'm very happy. Frank's face instantly drained of color. He looked at Rowan in my arms, his eyes filled with despair. How old is she? 2. This answer completely devastated Frank. He could figure out how long after I left him that I started dating someone else. Why? His voice was horribly hoarse. Why could you forget everything between us so quickly? I watched him collapse, feeling no emotion. Time is a wonderful thing. It heals all wounds and allows people to let go. Because I don't love you anymore. I said it softly, but it was like a knife stabbing into his heart. Frank's eyes instantly lost all the light, and he looked at me as if he were looking at a stranger. I don't love you anymore. He repeated these 3 words and smiled bitterly. That's right, what qualifications do I have to make you love me forever? Rowan moved in my arms and said in a baby voice, Mom, why is this uncle crying? Frank's body visibly trembled when he heard Rowan call me Mom. Don't cry, Uncle just. He forced a smile, but his voice was choked with sobs. I didn't want to argue with him any longer, so I hugged Rowan and left. Tanya. Frank called from behind me, can you tell me your current name? I paused, not turning back. Mrs. Connor. Behind me, I heard the sound of something heavy falling. I didn't look back, but walked straight out of the store. Frank and I were destined to be together for the rest of our lives. When I got home, Connor was already preparing dinner. Seeing me come back, he smiled gently, why are you so late? The mall was crowded, and the checkout line delayed us a bit. I put down the shopping bags and walked towards him with Rowan in my arms. Connor took Rowan and kissed her cheek. Do you miss Daddy? Yes. Rowan happily hugged Connor's neck. Watching this heartwarming scene, my heart warmed. This is the life I want, peaceful, warm, without arguments or suspicion. Oh, Connor suddenly remembered something, let's go back to our hometown next weekend. Mom said she misses Rowan. Okay. I nodded. Connor's mother was very kind to me and never looked down on me because of my divorce. She always said that the past was not important, what was important was the present and the future. While eating, Connor noticed that I was a little distracted. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? He asked with concern. Nothing, maybe I'm a little tired. I forced a smile. Connor didn't ask any more questions, but considerately picked up some food for me and said, then go to bed early, I'll take care of the housework. This is Connor, always gentle and considerate, never putting pressure on me. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. Frank's words echoed in my mind. He said he'd been looking for me for 3 years. He said he'd never been with Una. He said he'd been waiting for me to come back. But these words came too late. 3 years ago, if he had spoken out sooner, if he had given me enough sense of security, if he had chosen me when I needed him. But there are no ifs. I am no longer the Tanya who would give up everything for him. Now I'm Connor's wife and Rowan's mother. I have my own life and my own happiness. Frank is just a thing of the past. Just as I was thinking about this, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated, then picked up. Tanya, the familiar voice made my heart tighten. Frank, how did you get my number? His voice was low, I asked someone to check. I'm sorry, I know it's wrong, but Frank, I interrupted him, what do you want to do? There was silence on the other end of the line for so long that I thought he'd hung up. I just wanted to ask you. His voice trembled, are you truly happy? This question irritated me, it's none of your business. I knew it had nothing to do with me, and he smiled bitterly, I just want to know that at least one person has gained happiness by leaving me. I was stunned. Frank. Tanya, I know I have no right to disturb your life anymore. His voice became hoarse, but I want to tell you that I regret what I did 3 years ago. Is regret useful? I asked coldly. It was useless. There was despair in his voice. But I still want to say this. If I could go back in time, I would choose you first, protect you, and let you know that in my heart, you are more important than anyone else. My eyes got a little wet, but I quickly regained my composure. Frank, let the past be the past. We all need to move on. I've been looking forward for 3 years, but without you in front of me, how can I move on? This sentence was like a needle piercing my heart, but I still hardened my heart. That's your business, it has nothing to do with me. Frank, please don't call me again. After that, I hung up the phone and blacklisted this number. But after I hung up the phone, I couldn't help crying. Not because I still loved him, but because I felt regret. If only he had been more resolute, if only he had been braver, if only he had understood his own heart sooner. But now, it's too late. The next day, Connor went to work, and after I dropped Rowan off at preschool, I sat down at a coffee shop. I needed some time alone. As I was sipping my coffee, a woman approached me. Excuse me, are you Tanya? I looked up and saw a very beautiful woman, with a gentle temperament and elegant manners. Who are you? I'm Una, she smiled as she sat across from me. Frank's friend. My heartbeat quickened at the name. Una, Frank's sweetheart, the woman who caused our breakup. What does Una want to talk to me about? I try to stay calm. Una looks at me, a complex emotion flashing in her eyes. I want to talk to you about Frank. Frank and I no longer have any relationship. I said lightly. I know, Una nodded, but I want to tell you a truth. The truth? I looked at her, waiting for her next words. 3 years ago, I lied. Una's voice was soft, but every word reached my ears clearly. I told Frank's mother that Frank agreed to be with me and asked her to help arrange our engagement. I was stunned. Frank never actually agreed, Una continued, he kept rejecting me, saying you were the only one in his heart. This news exploded in my mind like a bomb. Why? My voice trembled. Why lie? Una gave a wry smile. Because I love him. I've loved him since we were little. Seeing him reject everyone for you, I was so jealous I was going crazy. So you chose to lie? I thought, as long as you left, he would one day accept me. Regret flashed in Una's eyes, but I was wrong. After you left, he became a puppet. For 3 years, he rejected everyone's pursuit, including me. My emotions were incredibly complicated. It turned out I had always misunderstood Frank. It turned out he had never betrayed me. Why are you telling me now? I asked hoarsely. Because I'm getting married, Una smiled, but tears welled up in her eyes. I'm going to marry someone who loves me. I want to tell this secret before we get married. You. I knew telling her wouldn't change anything, so Una stood up and said, you already have a new life and a new family. But I don't want to enter into marriage with this secret. Then she turned and left the cafe. I sat there, my mind blank. It turns out I've misunderstood Frank these past 3 years. It turns out he's really been waiting for me. It turns out our breakup was all because of a lie. For the next few days, I was in a trance. Una's words echoed in my mind like a spell, making it impossible for me to calm down. Connor noticed that something was wrong with me and asked with concern, what's wrong recently? Are you feeling unwell? It's okay, maybe I'm a little tired, I said perfunctorily. But Connor knew me so well, how could he not see that I was worried? Tanya, he sat next to me and said gently, if there's anything, you can tell me. We are husband and wife, we should be honest with each other. Looking at his concerned eyes, I felt a surge of guilt. Connor was so good to me, but I was worried about another man. Connor, I held his hand, I love you. Connor was stunned for a moment, then smiled gently, I love you too. But when I said this, I wasn't sure if I was sincere or just trying to convince myself. On the weekend, we took Rowan back to Connor's hometown. My mother-in-law was very happy to see us and bustled around preparing delicious food. Tanya has lost weight recently, she said, looking at me distressfully. Are you too tired? No, Mom, I'm fine. I forced a smile. While we were eating, Rowan suddenly asked, Mom, why was that uncle at the mall crying? My heart skipped a beat and I quickly said, little kids shouldn't ask so many questions. But Connor noticed my annoyance and asked, what uncle? It was the guy we met at the mall last time, Rowan said innocently. The uncle saw my mother crying and asked me how old I was. Connor looked at me, a hint of confusion in his eyes. He's just someone I know, I explained. I haven't seen him in a long time. Connor nodded and didn't ask any more questions, but I could sense he was lost in thought. That night, Connor and I were lying in bed. Tanya, he suddenly asked, was that guy you met at the mall your ex-boyfriend? My heartbeat quickened instantly, but I pretended to be calm. Why do you ask? You haven't been in a good state lately, Connor said, turning to look at me. You've been worried ever since you came back that day. I was silent. Connor was a smart man, and he knew me too well. Yes. I finally admitted. Connor's body visibly stiffened for a moment, but quickly returned to normal. He contacted you? Yeah. Want to get back together? I nodded. Connor was silent for so long that I thought he was asleep. Tanya, he said softly, do you still love him? The question stabbed me like a knife in the heart. Do I love Frank? I don't know. I thought I had let it go, but the moment I saw him, my heart still ached. I was still sad when I heard Una tell the truth. Is this love? I don't know, I answered truthfully. Connor's body stiffened again. Do you love me? He asked. This question is even harder to answer. Connor treats me well, and I rely on him, feel grateful, and have tender affection for him, but does this count as love? I married him more out of affection than anything else, because I needed a safe haven, because I wanted a complete family. But can these reasons truly be considered love? Connor. My voice trembled. I understand. Connor smiled bitterly. In fact, I knew it a long time ago. Connor. Tanya, I never expected you to love me as much as you love him. Connor's voice was calm, but I could hear the bitterness in it. I just want you to be happy. I couldn't help but shed tears. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Connor stroked my hair. Love is something that can't be forced. Then let's. I won't let go. Connor's voice suddenly became firm, at least not now. I looked at him, not understanding what he meant. Tanya, give me a chance. Connor looked at me seriously. Give our marriage a chance. 3 months. If you still can't let him go after 3 months, I'll set you free. 3 months? I looked at Connor's serious expression, feeling mixed emotions. Okay. I nodded. The next day, we returned to Haicheng. As soon as we got home, we found a bouquet of red roses, my favorite kind, at the door. Connor's face turned grim upon seeing the flowers. I picked up the bouquet, and inside was a card. Tanya, I know I have no right to bother you anymore, but I want to tell you that I will always be waiting for you. If one day you need me, I will be right here. Frank. Seeing the card, my heart was in turmoil again. Connor saw my expression and said nothing, just quietly went into the house. That night, I thought a lot. About Frank, about Connor, about myself. I really couldn't figure out my own heart. For Frank, I have love, hate, resentment, and regret. For Connor, I feel gratitude, dependence, guilt, and tenderness. But which one do I truly want? Just as I was lost in thought, my phone rang again. This time, it was a new, unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment, then picked up the phone. Tanya, it's me. It was Frank again. Did you change your number? Yeah, I know you blocked me, but I want to tell you something. What is it? Did Una contact you? I was stunned, you know? She told me, Frank's voice choked. Tanya, I want to tell you, no matter what happened in the past, I don't blame you. Frank. The misunderstanding 3 years ago was because I didn't give you enough sense of security, he blamed himself and said, if I could be more determined and brave, perhaps there would not be these misunderstandings. I couldn't help but shed tears again. But I want to tell you, Frank continued, in these 3 years, I have never forgotten you. I rejected everyone just waiting for you to come back. But I can't go back anymore. I choked. I know, Frank's voice was very soft, I know you are very happy now, with a new family and a new life. I don't want to ruin it. Then you. I just want you to know that in this world, there is someone who will always love you, no matter when and where. With that, Frank hung up. I clutched the phone, tears streaming down my face. Why? Why did he reappear when I'd already let it go? Why did he tell me the truth when I already had a new life? Why did he disrupt my heart again when I thought I could start over? In the days that followed, I studiously avoided going out, fearing I'd run into Frank again. But the more I avoided him, the more I thought of him. I thought of the 2 years we'd been together, the beautiful memories, his gentleness, his thoughtfulness, his kindness. I also think of our arguments, our misunderstandings, our breakup. If only I had trusted him a little more, if only I had been stronger, if only I had taken the initiative to understand the truth. But there are no ifs. There are no redos in life, once you've missed something, you've missed it. That afternoon, I was tidying up my room at home when I found a small box. Inside were some old photos, all of Frank and I. Looking at them, I couldn't help but recall the sweetness of our past. Back then, we were so in love, so happy. I thought we'd be together forever, growing old together. But now. I was lost in thought as I stared at the photo when the doorbell rang. Thinking it was Connor coming back, I quickly put the photo away and went to open the door. Standing outside was Frank. How do you know my address? I looked at him warily. Frank was a little embarrassed. I'd been following you for a few days. Are you crazy? I looked at him angrily. Frank, I've already told you, there's no way we can be together. I know, Frank's eyes are full of pain, I know it's impossible for us. But Tanya, I want to see you one last time. Why? Because I'm leaving, Frank said with a wry smile. I'm going abroad and may never come back. This news shocked me. Why are you leaving? Because it's too painful to stay here. Frank looked at me, his eyes filled with longing. Our memories are everywhere, and I can't take it anymore. I felt an inexplicable wave of emotion welling up in my heart. Tanya, I want to hug you, just one last time, okay? Frank asked cautiously. Looking at his haggard appearance, my heart softened. Just once. Frank walked towards me and hugged me gently. His embrace was still so warm, still so familiar. I couldn't help but close my eyes, greedily taking in this long-lost warmth. Tanya, Frank whispered softly in my ear, I love you. Those 3 words brought tears to my eyes. We just held each other, neither of us saying a word. Time seemed to stand still, only the sound of each other's heartbeats echoing in our ears. Mom? Rowan's childish voice suddenly rang out, and we quickly separated. Rowan stood at the doorway of the living room, looking at us in confusion. Mom, why are you crying? I quickly wiped my tears. Mom, I'm not crying, there's sand in my eyes. Rowan walked over to Frank and asked in a baby voice, Uncle, are you leaving? Frank squatted down and looked at Rowan gently. Yes, Uncle is going to a very far place. Then will you come back? Frank looked at me and said to Rowan, No. Rowan was a little sad. Why? Uncle, don't you like it here? No, Frank stroked Rowan's head gently. Uncle likes it here very much, but there are some things that you can't have just by liking them. Rowan nodded, not quite understanding. Uncle, she suddenly said, Mom actually misses you very much. Frank and I were stunned. Rowan. I tried to stop her from continuing. But Rowan continued, Mom cried yesterday when she saw a photo of you in it. Frank looked at me, a glint of hope in his eyes. Rowan, don't talk nonsense. I was a little panicked. I'm not talking nonsense, Rowan said seriously. Mom really cried. The air fell into a strange silence. Frank stood up and looked at me deeply. Tanya. Go ahead, I said, turning away, not wanting to meet his eyes. Don't delay your flight. Frank was silent for a long time, then said, Tanya, if you ever regret this, I'll be waiting for you in Paris. Then he turned and left. I heard the door close and couldn't help but run to the window to see. Frank stood downstairs, looking up at me. We stared at each other through the glass for a long time, and finally he turned and walked away. Watching his back disappear around the corner, my heart felt empty. Mom, don't you really miss Uncle? Rowan walked over to me. I squatted down and hugged her. Rowan, there are some things you are still young and don't understand. But I know Mom is unhappy, Rowan said seriously. Ever since she met that uncle, Mom has been unhappy. Children's words are always the most direct and touching. That night, Connor came back. How was your day? He asked me. Not bad. I didn't want to tell him that Frank had been here. But Rowan said, Dad, that crying uncle came today. Connor's expression changed instantly. What did he come for? He said he was leaving and came to say goodbye to Mom, Rowan answered truthfully. Connor looked at me with mixed emotions in his eyes. He's going abroad, I explained, and he won't be coming back. Connor nodded and said nothing. But I could sense the change in his mood. During the meal, Connor suddenly said, Tanya, I think we should talk. My heart skipped a beat. What? About our marriage. Connor put down his chopsticks and looked at me seriously. I don't think it's fair to anyone to continue like this. Connor. Your heart is not with me, I can feel it. Connor's voice was very calm. Forcing ourselves to be together will only make everyone suffer. I couldn't help but shed tears. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Connor held my hand. Love is something you can't force. I just want to ask you, have you thought it through? I looked at Connor's gentle eyes, feeling guilty. I need time. Okay, Connor nodded. I'll give you time, but not too long. It won't be good for Rowan if it drags on. Yes, Rowan. She's still so young, yet she has to endure the emotional entanglements of adults. Is this fair to her? After Frank left, my life returned to normal on the surface, but my heart was in turmoil. I began to reflect on my life over the past 3 years. Was my marriage to Connor really what I wanted? I married him because I needed someone to lean on, a father figure for Rowan. But is this kind of marriage fair to Connor? He deserves a woman who truly loves him, not one who has someone else in her heart. That day, I received an unexpected call. Tanya? I'm Frank's mother. Lily? How did she get my number? Hello, Lily, I replied politely. Tanya, can I meet you? I have something to tell you. I hesitated, then agreed. We agreed to meet at a cafe. Lily looked much older than she had 3 years ago, her hair much grayer. Tanya, she asked, a complex expression flashing in her eyes as she saw me. How have you been these past few years? Not bad, I replied calmly. Lily nodded, then said, I know Frank is going abroad. I didn't say anything, waiting for her to continue. I was wrong about what happened 3 years ago, Lily suddenly said. I shouldn't have listened to one side of the story and stopped you from being together. This apology came so suddenly that it caught me off guard. Lily. Frank has changed over the past 3 years. Lily's voice choked. He's become quiet and absent-minded. I know he's missing you. A pang of bitterness welled up in my heart. Tanya, Lily grabbed my hand. Can you forgive him? Can you give him a chance? Lily, I'm already married. I pulled my hand away. I know, but... Lily's eyes were filled with anticipation. If you still have him in your heart, why can't you start over? Because some things are gone forever, I said with a wry smile. We can't go back. Is there really no going back? Lily asked unwillingly. I looked at her expectant eyes, feeling a mixture of emotions. Lily, please let him live a good life and stop dwelling on the past. Lily lowered her head in disappointment. I understand. She stood up and prepared to leave, then turned back after a few steps and said, Tanya, no matter what, I hope you can be happy. Watching Lily's back as she left, my heart became even more confused. When I got home, I found Connor in the study. Connor, I want to talk to you. I pushed the door open and walked in. Connor looked up at me. What is it? About our marriage. I took a deep breath. I think we should. Divorce? Connor said for me. I nodded. Connor was silent for a long time, then he smiled bitterly and said, Actually, I expected this day to come. I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to say except to apologize. Don't apologize. Connor walked towards me and stroked my cheek. Tanya, I hope you understand that I let you go not because I don't love you, but because I love you too much. I couldn't help but shed tears. I want you to be happy, Connor continued. If being with me doesn't make you happy, then I'd rather let you go. Connor. But I have one condition. Connor looked at me seriously. I want half of Rowan's custody. I was stunned. What do you mean? I want to continue to be her father. Connor's eyes were full of reluctance. I have really loved her in the past 3 years. Seeing the reluctance in Connor's eyes, my heart was broken. Rowan had been with Connor since she was little. In her heart, Connor was her father. Okay, I agreed. The next day, we went to file for divorce. As we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Connor said, Tanya, no matter who you choose, I hope you'll be happy. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Connor turned and left, and I watched him, feeling a surge of guilt and reluctance. He was a good man, but I wasn't worthy of him. I returned home and started packing. I decided to go to Paris, to find Frank. Not because I still loved him, but because I wanted answers. I wanted to know if our relationship would have ended differently if we started over. I wanted to know if this relationship was worth giving up everything. Rowan saw me packing and asked, Mom, are we moving? No, I squatted down and hugged her. Mom is going away. You stay with Dad for a while. Where are you going? Somewhere very far away. Are you going to find that crying uncle? Rowan asked innocently. I froze for a moment, then nodded, yes. Rowan said seriously, Mom, if that uncle makes you happy, then you should be with him. A child's words are always the purest and most touching. I hugged Rowan tightly, tears streaming down my face. Rowan, Mommy will be back soon. I know, Rowan said sweetly, Mommy, remember to miss me. Of course I will. The next day, I boarded a plane to Paris. Sitting there, I thought a lot. About the past, the present, and the future. I didn't know if this decision was right or wrong, but I knew that if I didn't go, I would regret it for the rest of my life. Some things must come to an end. Some people must come to an end. As the plane flew through the clouds, I looked out the window, feeling a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Frank, here I come. This time, let's have a proper talk. The Paris winter was colder than I'd imagined. I dragged my suitcase out of Charles de Gaulle Airport, feeling nervous and apprehensive. Where would I find Frank? I remembered he'd said he'd wait for me, but where would he wait? I was completely unfamiliar with Paris and barely spoke a word of French. Just as I was lost in thought, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar French number. Tanya? The familiar voice made my heart skip a beat. Frank? How did you know I was coming? I'm picking you up at the airport, Frank said, his voice a little excited. Which exit are you at? I looked around and saw a familiar figure. Frank was standing not far away, phone in hand, anxiously searching for something. Our eyes met. Frank was stunned for a few seconds, then walked quickly towards me. Tanya. His voice trembled, you really came. How did you know I would come? I asked. I don't know, Frank said with a wry smile, I just came to the airport every day and waited for half a month. This answer warmed my heart. He really was waiting for me. Come on, I'll take you to where I live. Frank reached out to take my suitcase. I hesitated for a moment, but finally gave it to him. We didn't speak the whole way. The streets of Paris were beautiful and filled with romance, but the atmosphere between us was a little awkward. Frank's apartment was near the Seine and was simply decorated, but warm. You live here? I asked. Well, Frank nodded, the guest room has been cleaned up, you can stay there. I nodded and followed him to the guest room. The room was clean, with brand new sheets and quilt covers on the bed. Thank you, I said. You're welcome, Frank said, standing at the door, feeling a little awkward. Are you hungry? I'll make you something to eat. No, I'm not. Then you can take a rest first. Call me if you need anything. With that, Frank left, even considerately closing the door for me. I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at this unfamiliar room, feeling mixed emotions. Why did I come here? What did I want? Just as I was thinking, Frank knocked on the door. Tanya, can you come out for a moment? Let's talk. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Frank was standing in the living room, holding 2 cups of hot tea. Have some hot tea to warm you up, he handed me. I took the cups and felt the warmth in my palms. Tanya, Frank sat across from me and looked at me seriously. Why did you come to Paris? I've asked myself this question countless times, but until now, I still don't have a definite answer. I want an answer, I said. What answer? I wonder if it would have ended differently if we started over. Frank's eyes flashed with excitement. Tanya, are you saying? I didn't say anything, I interrupted him, I just wanted to try it out. Try what? Try to see if we can go back to the past. Frank was silent for a long time, then said, Tanya, there is no going back to the past. This answer was a little unexpected to me. Why? Because we've all changed, Frank said with a wry smile. 3 years is enough time for a lot of things to change. Then what are you waiting for me for? I said, a little annoyed. Because I want a fresh start, Frank looked at me with deep affection in his eyes. Not to go back to the way things were, but to start over. Start over? What do you mean? It means we forget everything in the past, get to know each other again, understand each other again, and fall in love with each other again. This suggestion made me feel a little excited. Forget the past hurts, forget the past misunderstandings, forget the past pain, and start over. Do you think it's possible? I asked. I'm willing to give it a try, Frank said seriously, if you're willing to. I looked at Frank's sincere eyes and felt a little hesitant. I need time to think about it. Okay, Frank nodded, you can take as long as you want to think about it. For the next few days, Frank took me around Paris every day. The Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, the Champs-Élysées, the Seine. Paris was truly beautiful, filled with romance. And Frank, too, was a little different from 3 years ago. He's become more mature, more considerate, and more caring. We're like 2 friends meeting for the first time, cautiously testing the waters and getting to know each other. What have you been doing these past 3 years? I asked him. Work, Frank answered simply. I work so hard I don't have time to think about you. Does it help? No, Frank said with a wry smile. The busier I am, the more I think about you. We walked along the Seine, watching the water flow slowly. Tanya, Frank said suddenly, do you regret coming to Paris? I thought about it. No regrets. Why? Because I want an answer, I looked at him, whatever the answer is. Frank nodded. I want an answer too. What answer? I want to know if there's still a chance for us. I'd love to know the answer to that question, too. These past few days, I've gotten to know Frank in a new way. He's still the same gentle and thoughtful man, just a little more mature and steady. And my feelings about him are slowly changing, too. From the initial strangeness and wariness to the current familiarity and dependence. Maybe, we can really start over. Frank, I suddenly called his name. Huh? If we start over, can you promise not to hurt me again? Frank stopped and looked at me seriously. Tanya, I can't promise that there won't be arguments or misunderstandings between us, because those are part of a relationship. But I can promise that I will do my best to protect you, love you, and never let you get hurt. This promise touched my heart. Let's give it a try, I said. Frank's eyes lit up instantly. You mean? Let's start over, I nodded. Start as friends. Frank hugged me excitedly. Thank you, Tanya, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I felt the warmth of his embrace, and a long-lost sense of security welled up in my heart. Perhaps this time, we really could have a different ending. The days of starting over were wonderful. We were like two new friends, shopping, eating, and watching movies together every day. Frank was very patient, never rushing me or bringing up the past. He was like a gentleman friend, gently accompanying me. Slowly, I began to let down my guard and enjoy this simple happiness. Tanya, do you miss home? Frank asked me one night. Yes, I nodded, especially Rowan. When Frank mentioned Rowan, a complex emotion flashed in his eyes. She's a good kid, he said. Yeah, she's very good. Frank hesitated. Is her father a good man? I knew he was asking about Connor. Very good, I answered truthfully. He's a very good man. Frank nodded and didn't ask any more questions. But I could sense the discomfort in his heart. Frank, I called his name. Do you mind? That I've been married before, with a child? Frank was silent for a moment, then said, it would be a lie to say I don't mind, but... But what? But I mind losing you more. Frank looked at me with deep affection in his eyes and said, if accepting these is the price of being with you, I am willing to accept them. I was very moved by these words. I know it's not easy for any man to accept a woman who has been married and has children. But Frank is willing to accept all this for me. Thank you, I said. Don't say thank you to me. Frank reached out and held my hand. Tanya, I want to tell you that no matter what happened in the past, you will always be the most precious person in my heart. I looked into Frank's sincere eyes, and a wave of warmth welled up in my heart. Perhaps we could really start over. The next day, Frank took me to a very special place. It was a lavender field. Although it wasn't lavender season, it was still beautiful. It's beautiful here, I said. Yeah, Frank nodded. I come here often. Whenever I miss you, I come here to sit. Why did you choose this place? Because you said you liked the smell of lavender the most. This sentence made my heart tremble. I did say this, but it was a long time ago. I didn't expect him to remember it. Frank. Tanya, I want to tell you something. Frank turned to face me, his eyes full of affection. In the past 3 years, I have never forgotten every word you said, every expression, every movement you made. I couldn't help but cry. Why are you so cruel to yourself? Because these are the only memories I have of you. Frank stroked my cheek gently. I can't bear to forget. Frank. Tanya, I love you. Frank looked at me seriously, not in the past tense, but in the present tense. I love you now, more than I did 3 years ago. This confession made my heart beat faster. Looking into Frank's affectionate eyes, the last layer of my defense crumbled. I wanted to say something, but Frank interrupted me. Don't rush to answer me, Frank said gently. I can wait. How long? Wait until you are ready. I am very touched by Frank's patience and gentleness. How can I not be moved by him? Frank, I called his name. I think I am ready. Frank's eyes lit up instantly. You mean? I'm willing to be with you, I nodded, and restart our relationship. Frank hugged me excitedly. Tanya, thank you for believing in me again. We embraced in a lavender field. Though there was no fragrance, I could feel the warmth in each other's hearts. Perhaps, missed fate can truly be rekindled. Perhaps, true love truly can conquer all. That night, we walked hand in hand along the Seine. Tanya, Frank said, let's go back home. Why? Because your daughter is there, and your life is there, Frank said seriously. I want to be part of your life, not just you having to accommodate me. This suggestion surprised and touched me. Are you sure? If you go back, you'll have to face a lot of problems. What problems? Like Rowan, like Connor, like other people's opinions. None of that matters, Frank interrupted me. What matters is that we're together. Looking at Frank's determined eyes, I knew he was serious. Okay, let's go back home. Really? Frank was as excited as a child. Really? I nodded. Frank excitedly spun around and hugged me. Tanya, I love you. I smiled too, hugging him tightly. This time in Paris had allowed me to rediscover Frank and myself. I realized I had never truly forgotten him. I realized my love for him had never faded, it had simply been obscured by hurt. Now, the hurt has healed, love has blossomed again. We can start over. A week later, we boarded a plane back home. Sitting on the plane, I imagined my life back home. How would Frank face Rowan? Would Rowan accept Frank? What would Connor think? What would others think of us? But there was no point in pondering these questions now. We'd just take it one step at a time. As long as we loved each other, we could overcome any obstacle. Frank held my hand. Tanya, don't worry. We'll take care of everything. I nodded and squeezed his hand. This time, we'll be together. The first thing I did when I got back to Haicheng was pick up Rowan. Connor had heard I was back and asked us to meet at the park. Mom. Rowan saw me and ran over excitedly. I knelt down and hugged her, tears streaming down my face. Rowan, Mommy misses you. I missed my mom, too. Rowan started to act coquettishly in my arms. Where's Mom? She went very far away. I glanced at Frank, to see someone very important. Rowan followed my gaze to Frank, his eyes instantly lighting up. It's that uncle who cries. Frank came over and squatted beside us. Rowan, do you remember me? Yes, Rowan nodded. Uncle, aren't you crying anymore? No, Frank smiled gently, because I found my mother. Rowan nodded, not quite understanding. At this time, Connor walked over. The two men stood face to face, and the atmosphere was a little tense. You're back. Connor looked at me and said. Yeah. I nodded. Connor looked at Frank again. Are you Frank? Yes. Frank nodded. Rowan's matter. I will take good care of her, Frank said seriously. I know she is very important to you, and I will not replace your place in her heart. Connor looked at Frank, with a flash of surprise in his eyes. He probably didn't expect Frank to say that. Are you serious? Connor asked. Of course, Frank nodded. In Rowan's heart, you are her father, and that will never change. Connor's expression softened a little. That's good. He said. Rowan ran back and forth between us, completely oblivious to what the adults were talking about. Dad, she said, holding Connor's hand, is this uncle a good person? Connor squatted down and looked at Rowan tenderly. What do you think, Rowan? Rowan thought about it seriously and said, I think he's a good guy because he makes Mom happy. Children's words are always the purest and most direct. Connor smiled bitterly and said, that's good. He stood up and said to me, Tanya, I hope you can be happy. Thank you, Connor, I said sincerely. Connor nodded, then said to Frank, take good care of them. I will, Frank promised. Watching Connor leave, I felt a mixture of emotions. He was a good man, and I owed him so much. Mom, are we going home? Rowan asked. Yes, home. I nodded. Frank was a little reserved when we got home. After all, this was once Connor and I's home, and there were traces of other people everywhere. How about we move somewhere else? I suggested. No, Frank shook his head. This place is fine. In the following days, we began living together. Frank was very caring and patient. His relationship with Rowan was also slowly improving. "Uncle, can you cook?" Rowan asked. "A little bit," Frank said. "What do you want to eat?" "Uncle will make it for you." "I want sweet and sour pork ribs." "Okay, no problem." Watching Frank busy in the kitchen, my heart warmed. This is the life I want, peaceful, warm, and full of love. That night, after Rowan had gone to bed, Frank and I sat in the living room chatting. "Tanya," Frank suddenly said, "I want to marry you." The proposal came so suddenly that it caught me off guard. "Now?" "Not now," Frank shook his head. "I want to wait for a while, until our relationship is stable and Rowan fully accepts me, then we can get married." I nodded, "Okay." "And," Frank continued, "I want to formally adopt Rowan and make her my daughter." This proposal touched me deeply. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Frank said seriously. "I love you and Rowan too. I want to give you a complete family." I couldn't help but cry. "Frank, thank you." "Don't say thank you to me," Frank hugged me, "we are a family." "Yes, we are a family." And just like that, we started a new life. Frank goes to work every day, and I stay home to take care of Rowan. Sometimes, we go for walks in the park together, go grocery shopping together, and go to the movies together. It's like a normal happy family. Rowan has also grown to like Frank. One night, Rowan asked me, "Can I call my uncle Daddy?" This request surprised me. "Why?" "Because my uncle is very kind to me, just like a dad," Rowan said seriously. I looked at Frank, and his eyes sparkled with excitement. "Just scream if you want," I said. Rowan ran towards Frank happily. "Dad." Frank excitedly hugged Rowan. "Rowan." Looking at this heartwarming scene, I felt that everything was worth it. This went on for 6 months. 6 months later, Frank officially proposed to me. It was my birthday, and Frank said he wanted to take me somewhere special. He took me to the Ferris wheel in the city center, where we had our first date. "Do you remember this place?" Frank asked. "Yes," I nodded. "We had our first date here. Back then you said you hoped our love would go on forever like a Ferris wheel." I smiled. I was very naive back then. Frank said seriously, "That's the best wish." We got on the Ferris wheel. When it reached its highest point, Frank suddenly knelt on one knee. "Tanya," he said, pulling out a ring, "will you marry me?" Looking at Frank's sincere eyes, I couldn't help but shed tears. "Okay." I nodded. Frank excitedly put the ring on my finger and then hugged me tightly. "Tanya, I love you." "I love you too." This time our love finally had a happy ending. Our wedding was scheduled for spring. The sun was shining brightly, everything was alive, and everything was vibrant. Lily and Connor were there, along with our friends and colleagues. Best of all, Rowan, in a beautiful dress, was our flower girl. "Mom is so beautiful." Rowan looked at me in my wedding dress, her eyes full of admiration. "Rowan is beautiful too." I squatted down and kissed her little face. "Mom," Rowan suddenly said seriously, "I love Dad very much." She was talking about Frank. "I know." I smiled. The wedding was simple but heartwarming. When Frank said "I do," I couldn't help but burst into tears. I had waited so long for this moment. I said "I do," too. When we exchanged rings, the audience erupted in applause. Frank looked at me lovingly. "Tanya, from now on, we're a real family." "Yes," I nodded. After the wedding, we took family photos. In the photo, Frank hugged me, and I held Rowan, and we were both smiling happily. This is the life I want, simple, happy, and full of love. At night, Frank coaxes Rowan to sleep. "Dad," Rowan asked in bed, "will you stay with Mom forever?" "Yes," Frank said softly, "Daddy will always love Mommy, and he will always love Rowan too." "That's wonderful." Rowan closed her eyes happily. Frank tucked her in and whispered, "Good night, my little princess." Back in our room, Frank hugged me. Tanya, he whispered in my ear, thank you for marrying me. I should be the one thanking you, I said. Thank you for not giving up on me. I'll never give up, Frank kissed my forehead. In this life, in the next, and never. We hugged each other tightly, feeling each other's warmth. After so many twists and turns, we are finally together. I will cherish this hard-earned happiness. A year later, we had our own child. It was a boy who looked a lot like Frank. Rowan loved her little brother and hugged him every day. Mom, when can my little brother play with me? She asked. When he's a little older, I said with a smile. Frank hugged his son, his face beaming with joy. Tanya, thank you for giving me a complete family. We all have a complete family, I corrected him. Yes, we all have a complete family. Frank, Rowan, me, and our little son. This is the life I want.